Good evening, wanderer of thoughts. You're here with the sleepy dreamer, a quiet place where the night leans close and science turns into something you can almost feel with your skin. The room around you is simple for now, just the weight of your body resting where you are, the soft press of fabric against your shoulders, the faint familiar shapes in the dark. Notice the air touching your face, cool, gentle, almost still. If you listen closely, you might hear a small sound nearby, maybe a clock, maybe the low hum of a distant appliance, maybe only the soft rhythm of your own breath. Let those tiny sounds be your anchors, not distractions. Little reminders that you're safe, here, held by four quiet walls and a sky outside that doesn't need anything from you. Let your shoulders loosen, just a little. Let your jaw soften. Let your hands rest wherever they've chosen to land. You don't need to do anything with your breath. Just notice that it moves. In, out, an old patient motion. And as the modern night settles around you, like a blanket of its own, we'll let part of your mind drift somewhere else. Somewhere deep and far and very, very old. Imagine that the darkness behind your closed eyes begins to change. At first, it's only a hint of colour, a faint green threaded through the black. Then another shade joins, mossy and deep, like light filtered through a forest you've never walked in before. You feel the air thicken. It's not the dry air of a modern room. It's warm and slightly heavy, as if it's carrying water and the smell of living things. You can almost feel it resting against your skin, soft and humid, wrapping around you like a slow exhale from the ground. Under your feet, whether you imagine yourself standing or simply floating low to the earth, the surface is soft and damp. Layers of leaves and needles and old plant matter create a quiet cushion, the kind that absorbs sound and turns footsteps into whispers. The wind, when it moves, is gentle and broad. It doesn't rush, it glides. It brushes past tall trunks and enormous fronds, bending them with a slow patience. Somewhere above, you hear the low murmur of leaves rubbing together, like soft hands passing over silk. This is not your forest. This is the world as it was more than 100 million years ago. The towering shapes around you are ancient relatives of the plants you know. Conifers reach upward like living pillars. Cycads huddle closer to the ground, their crowns of stiff leaves radiating out like feathered wheels. Ferns fill the understory, fronds layered upon fronds, each leaflet catching moisture from the warm air. The light that filters down is different too. It feels thicker, almost golden green, softened by the canopy overhead. The sun is high somewhere above these trees, but here, in the deep of the forest, it arrives in pale beams and glowing patches on the forest floor. You can smell the world. Resin from broken branches, wet soil rich with decay and new growth, the faint sweet note of pollen, drifting low and slow. This is a planet without ice at the poles, where warmth spreads much farther than it does in your own time. Seas are shallow and sprawling. Air is heavy with greenhouse gases and moisture. The world is a greenhouse with no open window, and life has grown in response to that steady heat. Many ages of dinosaurs lived in climates far warmer than today. No bright caps of permanent ice glitter at the end of the world. Instead, lush forests and broad swamps stretch over lands that, in your time, might be cold and stark. Warmth feeds plants. Plants feed bodies. Bodies grow and grow and grow. You move slowly along a barely there path, or perhaps the path moves under you while you float. Either way, nothing is hurried. We're not tourists. We're not here to collect facts. We're here to feel the deep shape of this world, so that the strangest creatures it birthed will make a different kind of sense. Listen, there is sound here, but it is not the loud bark of cars or the sudden shriek of alarms. Instead, you might hear the chorus of insects, a soft, thick buzz pressed into the background like a woven fabric of noise. Chirrs and clicks rise and fall. Something hums from a branch overhead, then falls quiet again. In the distance, water moves slowly through a channel, the faint lap of it against muddy banks. Every now and then there's a heavier sound, the muffled thud of something large shifting its weight, the slow crunch of vegetation under great feet. But even those sounds are not frantic. They are the noises of bodies that have grown used to their size. The weirdest dinosaurs are not here to frighten you. They are simply part of this place, as natural as the ferns and the warm wind. Continents in this age are not where you expect them to be. In your time, you know the map, the familiar shapes of land almost like letters in a language you trust. But here, those letters are still being written. Land masses pull apart or press together, carried on slow rivers of rock far below where roots end. In some eras, a single great continent sprawled like a sleeping animal across much of the world. In others, wide seas flooded lowlands, leaving chains of islands and shallow, sunlit waters. The exact configuration shifts with time, but the feeling, for you, is one of being unmoored from the usual map. And strangely, that's peaceful. You're not missing a flight. You're not lost in a city. You're simply somewhere Earth once was, and will never be again, walking among the ghosts of future continents. The weird forms that will soon step out of the shadows are answers to the questions of these landscapes. Questions asked over millions of years, answered in bone and muscle and skin. For now, they stay mostly at the edge of your vision. As you follow the gentle curve of a stream, you might see a long neck moving behind the trees, its head rising to pluck at high branches, then lowering again with the same unhurried grace. The animal's body is massive, but you see only glimpses through curtains of foliage. An arching spine, the swinging base of a tail, the shifting shadow of feet. Elsewhere, something smaller crosses your path, no more than a low blur in the ferns. You notice only the ripple of leaves, the quick flick of a tail, the suggestion of scales or feathers, then nothing. Weirdness, for now, stays as a promise, a presence, a breath in the underbrush. You're standing at the threshold of strangeness, and the forest is letting you adjust to its deep time before it introduces you properly to its inhabitants. You pause in a clearing, if we can call it that. It isn't open the way a modern field might be, but there is more space between trunks here, more sky between branches. Sunlight spills down in looser beams, pooling on the ground in brighter patches where ferns and small shrubs drink in the warmth. The air feels slightly different in this open space. A faint breeze finds you more easily, brushing over your arms, your face, the back of your neck. The warmth is still there, but now it moves. It strokes instead of presses. You listen again. In the near distance, a low call vibrates through the trees, long, rising, and then fading. You feel it more than hear it, a gentle shake in your chest, like standing close to a distant drum. The exact source is hidden, but the sound carries the weight of something large and alive. Above, a shadow passes briefly across the sun, leaving a dimmer patch of light behind it. You sense wings, or something like wings, stretched across the sky for a heartbeat before vanishing behind the canopy. You're not alone here, but you're not in danger. You're a quiet guest in a world that does not yet know your kind. This is the time when the weirdest dinosaurs will step briefly into the story. But before they do, you begin to feel the scale of their world. This forest has no human paths, no sawed logs, no wires or distant highways. The only lines here are the sweep of roots, the arc of branches, the trails left by feet travelling the same way often enough to bend plants aside. Storms, when they come, are heavy and lush, lightning flashes in thick, humid air. Rain falls not in thin, cold lines, but in warm sheets that soak the ground and refill swamps, pounding on broad leaves like soft drums. Volcanoes may rise in the distance, a low red glow staining the horizon on some nights, a reminder that the crust beneath all this life is restless, always shifting. Their ash, when it settles, will cover bodies and tracks and leaves, helping preserve a record of these days for a future when curious minds will read stone like an old diary. You breathe in the thought that some of these dinosaurs will one day be fossils. Their bones will be replaced molecule by molecule with minerals until they become delicate rock sculptures tucked into layers of sediment. Millions of years later, sunlight and human hands will lift them into the open air again. Right now, though, they are only living shapes in a warm, breathing world. Let's stand together just inside the tree line and look out over this primeval clearing. The ground is uneven and lush, dotted with ferns that reach your waist, with low shrubs carrying unfamiliar leaves and seed cones. The soil is rich and dark, damp where roots hold it. Patches of open water reflect the sky, their surfaces broken by floating plants and small ripples where unseen animals move. You can feel a faint vibration in the earth beneath your feet. It comes and goes in a slow pattern. Heavy steps, a pause, more steps, a pause. Somewhere beyond the fern, something large is moving, but in no great hurry. You watch as the tops of the plants sway, not randomly with the breeze, but in sequence, as if a hand were brushing lightly through them. Each motion creeps closer by degrees, and your attention gently goes with it. Then, in the half-shadowed distance, you see a shape. You don't yet need to know its name, its family, its exact size. You notice instead the strangeness of its outline, the way its spine arches, the way its tail balances, the suggestion of plates or spikes or crests catching the low light. It is not a dragon. It is not a monster from a nightmare. It is simply an animal built by this world's rules, rules that have had more time to play than you can easily imagine. You might notice the thickness of its legs, the roll of muscle beneath scaled or feathered skin, the easy sway of a neck that has grown longer than yours because it had to reach food you cannot see from where you stand. You may glimpse the glint of an eye, round and dark and watchful, shifting slowly as the creature browses, tasting air you can almost feel. There is a softness to its motion, even in its bulk. It belongs here completely. It is not weird to itself. It pulls leaves into its mouth with a slow, practiced movement. You hear the wet, fibrous crunch of plant matter being ground between teeth shaped for that purpose alone. Bits of leaf fall, joining the litter on the forest floor, where insects and microbes will break them down, returning their nutrients to the soil. It is a simple act, and yet it contributes to the long, quiet cycles that keep this ecosystem humming, eating, excreting, trampling, opening light gaps where new plants will grow. Weirdness, you begin to feel. is only a matter of perspective. As your eyes adjust to this deep time, you start to notice more shapes at the edge of the clearing. A long, low back here, the curve of a tail there. Perhaps a smaller animal scurries between the feet of giants, careful and quick. Above you hear a distant fluttering beat, like wings working hard in heavy air. The weirdest dinosaurs are gathering like characters at the edge of a stage, each waiting for its moment to step forward. But this first section is not their performance. It is the drawing of curtains, the dimming of the house lights, the soft sound of the orchestra tuning in the dark. You're being introduced to their world slowly, because your body, like theirs, responds to pacing. Too much too fast and the heart races, too little and the mind wanders away. Here, in this warm forest of deep time, the rhythm is somewhere in between. A gentle, patient tempo that lets you stay curious while you grow calmer. You may notice as you listen that your own breath has slipped into a quieter pattern. In, out. The muscles around your eyes relax a little more. Any thoughts from your day drift in and out like small animals passing through undergrowth, interesting but not urgent. The forest does not demand your focus. It simply offers a place to rest it. We stand now, together, at the edge of this ancient clearing. You can feel the warm, slightly sticky air against your cheeks. You can hear the layered sounds of insects, water, and distant footsteps. You can smell resin, soil, and the faint sweetness of pollen. And in front of you, partly hidden by ferns and the low curve of the land, you see a shadow move. Not fast, not sharply, just a slow, deliberate shift as something large changes position. You don't yet know which of the weird ones this is. That's all right. Tonight is not a test. It's a walk. You stand still listening as the shadow grows just a little clearer, the outline of a tail lifting, the suggestion of a crest or a plate catching the muted light. In this moment, you are quiet. The forest is quiet, and somewhere between your breath and the creature's slow movement, the strangest dinosaurs that ever lived begin to remember themselves in the soft green dusk of your mind. And as that slow shadow in the clearing shifts its weight, as the faint line of its back rises a little higher above the ferns, you feel something gentle open inside your thoughts. Not fear, not even urgency, just a question. You stand very still, wrapped in warm air and ancient smells, and let that question widen the way a ripple widens on quiet water. Why did they look like this? Why did this world grow bodies so strange? The forest around you seems to lean in, as if it too is listening for the answer. The light in the clearing has changed a little. It is still day, but the sun is lower now, and the beams that fall between the trunks have taken on a deeper tone, more amber than gold. Dust and pollen drift in those beams, tiny flecks turning lazily, each one catching light for a heartbeat, before slipping back into shadow. You can hear the soft ticking of cooling resin on a broken branch, a slow drip as it falls and gathers in a thick, transparent bead. Somewhere not far away, a small stream still slides over stones, its trickle blending with the layered voices of insects. And under all of this, faint but steady, is the rhythm of heavy lives moving through the ferns. You notice the shape in the clearing more clearly now. Perhaps it has stepped forward. Perhaps your eyes have simply grown used to its outline. Its back is not smooth. There are ridges, or plates, or some other raised structures that catch the light and break its silhouette into jagged curves. You realize that if you tried to draw it from memory, The creature would not fit neatly into any picture book from your childhood. It would look wrong in a way that makes you curious rather than afraid. The forest does not explain, it simply shows you the question. As you watch, another shape moves at the edge of vision. This one is taller, thinner, with a neck that stretches upward like a living crane, head lifting toward high branches. Farther off, something low and broad slides between trees, the sheer width of its back parting plants as if they were water. Your mind, trained in a modern world of familiar animals, tries to make comparisons. A bit like an elephant here, a bit like a bird there, a hint of a crocodile, a little of a rhinoceros. But each comparison falls short. These bodies are experiments carried out over millions of years. They answer questions you have not yet learned how to ask. Warm air settles around your shoulders like a shawl placed there by an unseen hand. You breathe it in and out, and with each breath the weird outlines around you feel less alien, more like the natural handwriting of this time. They grew this way for reasons. Soft, patient reasons written in hunger, danger, sunlight, and time. You close your eyes for a moment, standing in that clearing, and let your awareness slip downward, down past the plants and soil, down past the roots and pebbles, down into the layered rock that lies far under your feet. In those layers, far beneath the forest, you are imagining bones are being written into stone, not from these exact animals, not from this exact day, but from days like it, from lives that ended and were buried in mud, in sand, in ash. Over time, minerals seeped into those buried bones, replacing living tissue grain by grain, turning skeletons into fossils. Millions of years later, in your own world, human hands will find them, a piece of a jaw, a single vertebra, the curve of a claw. Someone will kneel in dust under a hot sun, brush away loose rock with a soft tool, and lift that fragment from the ground as carefully as if it were something sleeping. With only that one piece, they will begin to imagine the whole. Paleontologists often work with partial skeletons. A single bone can tell them the size of the animal, how it carried its weight, how fast it might have moved. The deep curve of a thigh bone, the twist of a wrist, the hollow of a vertebra. Each shape is a letter in a language made of anatomy and time. You picture a scientist gently turning a fossil in their hands under white light. Tiny scratches on the surface, a cross-section revealing growth rings like those in a tree. From this they infer how quickly the animal grew, whether it had seasons of plenty and seasons of scarcity, whether it lived a short, fast life or a long, slow one. From a few bones of a skull, they might see the anchor points for crests or horns. From the base of the spine, they might infer the weight of a tail club. From the shoulder girdle, they might sense whether wings or arms once extended outward. Again and again, the same pattern emerges. Weirdness is not random. It is an answer to some quiet question the environment asked. The forest around you feels like the original page on which those answers were written. You open your eyes and see the long neck again, the ridged back, the hint of something like armour. Somewhere, unseen, are animals with bright crests atop their heads, or sail-like structures rising from their spines, or hands tipped with claws so long and narrow they seem almost delicate. Why? The question floats up again, softer now, not demanding, just hovering. The air stirs as if in response. A warm breeze moves through the clearing, bending the tips of ferns, brushing your hair, passing over your skin like the breath of the world thinking. Over countless generations, dinosaurs faced pressures that nudged their bodies into these strange forms. Predators chasing prey, mates choosing mates, climates shifting from drier to wetter, forests opening and closing as sea levels rose and fell. If a slightly longer neck allowed an animal to reach food in high branches during lean seasons, their necks tended to stretch. If a small bump on the skull made an animal more impressive to potential partners, that bump might grow larger in descendants, becoming a horn or crest. If extra plates of bone under the skin helped deflect a bite, those plates might thicken and spread, becoming armor. Every oddity you see is a compromise that worked. You glance down at your own hands. In your mind's eye, you see the soft curve of your fingers, the bend of your wrist, the way bones sit under skin, hinged and layered, ready to flex. Your skeleton, too, is a record of pressures and solutions. You stand upright instead of on 4 limbs. Your thumb opposes your fingers. Your spine curves in more than one place. All of these things are answers to the challenges your lineage has faced. Climbing, walking, carrying, holding, speaking. Just as a dinosaur's back plates or freakish claws look strange partly because you do not share them, your own body would look very odd in this forest if some quiet, curious mind from that age were watching. In their eyes, you would be the weird one. You hear a gentle patter as a short rain shower begins, warm droplets slipping through the canopy. The sound is soft and steady, like fingers tapping on a drum wrapped in cloth. Some drops find your face, cool at first, then warmer as they mingle with the air on your skin. The plants around you respond, leaves lifting slightly, fronds unfurling a little more as water runs down their surfaces. The creatures in the clearing do not flee. They shift, blink, shake water from their heads and backs, and keep moving with the same slow deliberation. In this rain-softened light, the odd outlines become even stranger. A slope of bone that might once have been a simple skull now carries a tall crest like a living ornament. A back that could have been smooth now bears a line of plates, each one tall, thin, and slightly curved like a row of ancient shields. A tail that might have ended in a simple taper instead broadens into a heavy club, wrapped in thick skin and muscle. Each of these shapes costs something, extra weight to carry, extra energy to grow. The fact that they exist means the benefit outweighed the cost. You picture a predator's eyes watching from the trees, assessing the shape in the clearing. The plates along its back make it appear larger, harder to attack from above. The tail club promises a painful impact if the predator misjudges its approach. A skull crest might signal strength or maturity to others of its kind, making it more likely to be chosen as a mate, which means its unusual shape will be passed on. So the weird grows more weird over time. The world is full of this arms race of appearance, threat and safety, invisibility and display. In your own time, birds of paradise grow long, shimmering feathers and dance beneath forest canopies. Deer grow antlers and clash with them in ritualized contests. Human-style hair, choose clothing, decorate skin. In this age, dinosaurs carry sails, spikes, plates, and crests. Different shapes, same quiet need to survive, to be chosen, to belong. The rain begins to ease. Droplets fall less often now, leaving behind the dark shine of wet bark and glistening leaves. The air feels even warmer, as if the forest has drawn a breath and is holding it for a long, calm moment. Somewhere nearby, you hear a layered rhythmic sound. Not quite a roar, not quite a trumpet. More like air being pushed through a long winding tube. It rises, holds, then falls away, leaving the forest buzzing in its wake. You cannot see the singer, but you can imagine it. A dinosaur with a strange crest on its head, the bones inside that crest forming a hollow passageway. Air passes through it. The head becomes an instrument. Sound becomes an extension of its body, a declaration of presence that can carry over great distances. In your time, scientists will slice through fossil skulls and scan their interiors. They will find these hollow chambers, trace their pathways, and discover that the shapes of these crests could produce rich, low calls. In this moment, you do not need the scan. You feel the sound in your ribs. You let your mind drift over the possibilities. A long sail along the back may help release heat in a hot climate. Blood flowing up into that exposed surface and cooling as wind passes over it. Or perhaps the sail is for display, catching light at dawn and dusk, marking the animal out as strong and healthy. Maybe it is both. Horned frills might protect the neck, shielding vulnerable tissue. They might also provide space for muscles to anchor, or surfaces for skin patterns that communicate maturity and identity. Spikes and plates may deter predators, may help regulate body temperature, may simply be the outcome of bone growing where genetic changes nudged it, then being favoured because it made life just a little safer or more successful. So many maybes. You realise how much of paleontology is soft speculation held up by hard evidence, partial skeletons, trackways, bite marks healed and unhealed, beds of fossilised nests and eggs. From this, scientists whisper their hypotheses into the long ears of time. The forest, in turn, hums back its own secrets, never entirely revealed, always inviting another question. You feel that invitation extend to you now. As you stand in the fernlight, surrounded by the strange silhouettes of these animals, you notice that the question, why did they grow so weird, has shifted inside you. It is no longer a question asked from the outside, as if you were a stranger peering into a locked room. It has become quieter, more like, how did any of us grow at all into what we are? The same processes that grew sails and crests worked on the ancestors of mammals, on small furred bodies hiding underfoot. Those small forms carried the seeds of you. Your face, with its particular arrangement of bones and muscles and expressions, is just as unlikely and just as deeply shaped by ancient needs. Strangeness, you realize, is the normal state of life when seen from far enough away. The light begins to thin as the day moves toward prehistoric evening. The sky above the canopy tilts toward a deeper colour, though under the trees it is more a feeling than a visible change. The air cools a little on your skin, turning from warm to warm and soft, like the shift from a bath just drawn to one that has sat for a while in a quiet room. Shadows lengthen. The larger animals in the clearing finish their browsing for now and begin to drift toward the trees, their huge forms melting into layers of dark and not dark. The smaller creatures of twilight, some feathered, some scaled, some somewhere in between, start to stir more boldly, their movements quick and precise in the undergrowth. The sounds change too. Day insect quiet. Night insects tune up. Somewhere, a distant call echoes again, but this time fainter, as if the singer is moving away towards some ancient roost. You stand on the edge of all this, a listener in a time that no longer exists, feeling the whole forest sliding into a slower rhythm. Mystery feels different now than it did at the start. At first, it might have had a bright edge, the kind that makes the mind lean forward, hungry for answers. Now it feels broader and softer, like a dark river you can float on without needing to see the bottom. You do not know the exact reasons for every horn, every plate, every sail. No one does, not fully. But you know enough to feel a kind of deep respect. Each strange feature is the result of lives lived, eating, fighting, mating, fleeing, resting, over spans of time so long that human history becomes a brief, bright flicker by comparison. You can relax into not knowing, the way you relax into not needing to control each breath. Your body breathes itself. The forest explains itself. You are allowed to simply be here, witnessing. You glance down once more at your own shape, the curve of your shoulders, the line of your spine, the way your ribs expand with each inhale, then soften inward with each exhale. Your skeleton carries its own story of pressures and adaptations across deep time. Your mind, too, has grown in response to the needs of your species, storytelling, language, imagination. Right now, that imagination lets you stand in an ancient forest, looking at creatures that no longer walk the earth, and feel something like kinship instead of fear. You may never grow spikes or sails, but you have your own displays. Your way of speaking, the clothes you choose, the small rituals you keep. You have your own armor, habits, boundaries, ways of protecting your softer thoughts. Like them, you are an answer to questions you did not choose. The light in the clearing falls even further toward dusk now. Shapes become silhouettes. Colours drain into a range of deep greens, dark browns, muted golds. The strangest dinosaurs here are now only outlines against the dimness, their crests and plates and long necks forming patterns of absence where the sky and the trees meet. They move more quietly, their heavy steps cushioned by the cooling ground. In the distance, a glow sits low on the horizon, a reminder of distant volcanic fire, or perhaps just the last stretched out breath of the setting sun. It sends a faint, reddish wash through the air, painting the edges of the tallest trees in soft flame before fading. Around you, the first stars of this ancient night begin to appear between gaps in the canopy. Small, steady points that look no different from the stars you know. You stand there for a little while longer, watching silhouettes glide through fern-filtered light, each curve and spike and sail a quiet story of survival written in bone. And as the forest darkens, the questions that filled your mind a short time ago loosen their grip, sinking back into the soft moss of your thoughts, glowing just enough to guide you onward into the deeper strangeness still waiting in the trees above, and from the dimming outlines of those plated backs and distant crests, something lighter stirs in the branches above you, not a shape you can fully see, not yet, but a movement soft enough to feel in the air, as if a small current has shifted overhead. You lift your gaze and notice how the last threads of ancient daylight slip between the leaves. Their glow pools on the forest floor in narrow golden streaks, and for a moment the entire canopy feels like a living ceiling of green glass. In that softened light, a slender shadow crosses from one trunk to another, quick, graceful, almost silent. The air cools slightly against your cheeks, and a faint whisper passes your ear. Wings, or something like wings, brushing the air as it glides through the fading warmth. You breathe in, and the forest breathes with you. The branches move again, subtly this time, no more than a shimmering tremor in the leaves. When the creature lands, its body is small compared to the giants you met in the clearing, yet its presence feels vivid. as if the entire dusk has gathered itself into this one moment of poised stillness. You see only an outline at first, a compact torso, slender limbs, a long tail balancing the whole shape like a painter's brushstroke held lightly above the canvas. And then the outline shifts, revealing something unexpected. A second set of feathered limbs extending from its legs. Not arms, not wings, but something in between. Soft paddles of plumage that catch the last glints of amber light. A four-winged dinosaur, a dream of flight halfway written. In your own world it will be called Microraptor, though here, in this quiet forest, it is simply itself. Alive, cautious, beautifully strange. Its feathers rustle gently as it adjusts its stance. The sound is delicate, like silk being folded. You step very softly, though the creature does not seem bothered by your presence. Perhaps you are only a quiet thought in this imagined time, a warm breath passing between trees. You watch as it shifts its weight, tail twitching, feathers lifting and settling like embers rising on a warm breeze. The air around you deepens from gold to blue. Night is folding over the canopy, and in that slowing light you notice the subtle colours in the dinosaur's plumage, shades of deep navy and muted iridescent greens, the kind that shimmer only when the angle is just right. Some fossils of feathered dinosaurs preserve microscopic structures called melanosomes, little pigment-holding bodies that help scientists infer original colours. Under powerful microscopes they resemble tiny coins or rods. By comparing these shapes to those found in modern birds, paleontologists can say with surprising confidence that some dinosaurs shimmered, gleamed, or glowed. You glance again at the creature before you. Yes, you can see it now. A soft sheen, shifting as it moves, like moonlight rippling over a lake. Another presence appears, this one even stranger. It glides from the trunk of a nearby tree, wings outstretched. But these wings are not feathered in the same way. Instead, a long ribbon-like bone extends from the creature's wrist, supporting a thin membrane stretched across its arm. A dinosaur with a bat-like wing. This one, in your time, will be named Yi-Chi, Strange Wing. It moves like a whisper with intention. You feel a small pulse of cool air as it passes. Both creatures, feathered and membraned, share the same twilight branches, not competing, not chasing. Just existing in parallel, each an unfolding sketch in the long experiment of flight. And you realize something. Flight did not appear all at once. It arrived in fragments, attempts, variations, possibilities that fluttered for a few million years before settling into forms you would recognize as birds. The forest around you feels more alive now, more layered. Soft calls echo from the higher branches, notes that sound almost like birdsong, but deeper, rougher, as though shaped by throats still learning the mechanics of melody. These are dinosaurs, but they are also nearly birds, not yet light enough for long, sustained flight, not yet masters of the sky, but they can glide, they can leap, they can climb and spread and fall, letting the air cradle them for a breath or two. You tilt your head and imagine lying on your back among the ferns, watching them practice. Small figures bursting from tree trunks, gliding in arcs that catch the last orange beams, shifting feathers to steer, spiralling down, landing with more confidence each time. Their shadows drift across your vision like drifting leaves, their calls weaving into the rising song of night insects. Above you, the canopy becomes an in-between world, part sky, part shelter. Leaves glow faintly with afterlight. Branches hold the memory of warm days, Feathers move in slow currents, soft as whispered thoughts. You sense a deep continuity connecting these ancient gliders to the birds you know now, blackbirds in city trees, sparrows by windowsills, hawks soaring over open fields, hummingbirds hovering near flowers. Every bird carries the inheritance of these strange, half-winged ancestors. In your time, fossils from Liaoning, China, the feather beds of ancient lakes, preserve entire outlines of plumage, delicate enough to show patterns of feathers around ankles, legs, even tails. These slabs of stone hold faded impressions that look like ghosts of wings pressed into mud, waiting millions of years to be discovered. You imagine holding one of those fossils, the stone cool against your palm, the feather impressions no thicker than a memory. And in this forest, those memories move. They breathe, they leap above you, scattering small eddies of air as they glide from branch to branch. As you continue to watch, the smaller creatures in the canopy begin to quiet. The deepening dusk brushes their feathers with blue shadow. Some preen gently, smoothing barbs into place, realigning what the day has ruffled. Others settle into hollows of bark or the thick crooks where branches meet trunks, tucking heads beneath wings. You hear the small, steady sound of breathing, tiny lungs filling, emptying, preparing for rest. The air warms slightly as night creatures awaken, but in the branches, calm settles like dust on ancient leaves. One feather loosens from a wing as its owner shuffles into a sleeping posture. At first it clings to the air, suspended. Then gravity takes it gently, and the feather spirals downward. You watch it fall. Not fast, not slow, just drifting. Turning end over end, brushing against a thin beam of lingering light so that its edges glow for a moment. Then it descends into the ferns, nearly silent. A single, quiet punctuation mark in the story of flight. But the forest is not done speaking. Something moves slightly to your left, a soft rustle in the undergrowth, quick but not fearful. You turn and see a small creature perched halfway up the trunk of a tree. It grips the bark with curved claws. Feathers puff gently along the arms. Its eyes catch the faintest starlight. Large, rounded, deeply reflective. Eyes built for twilight worlds. It tilts its head as if watching you back. Curious but not nervous. The air between you feels very still. This one might be a troodontid or a similar small intelligent predator, though in this twilight forest you need no name for it. You just sense the quiet intention in its posture, the readiness of its limbs, the soft intelligence in the gaze that meets yours. It blinks. Slowly, you blink back. For a moment the forest holds its breath. Then the creature climbs higher, almost weightless as it moves, feathers pressing close to streamline its form. A soft thrum of small claws on bark, then silence. You realize now how many tiers these ancient forests contained. Giant sauropods browsing high branches, armored giants shaping the understory, crested animals calling across distance, small feathered gliders weaving between trunks, insect hums, reptile footfalls, bird ancestor whispers, a world of experiments layered across time, a world humming with half-remembered dreams of the sky. These small winged dinosaurs are not strange exceptions. They are transitional poetry, living drafts, each one slightly different, each testing how air might hold a body. Their ancestors did not plan to fly. Their bodies simply drifted toward new possibilities. Feathers that evolved first for warmth or display grew longer. Limbs that once only climbed learned to spread and catch wind. Tails became rudders. Wings became invitations to the open space above the trees. And flight, true flight, emerged, not in a single leap but in countless glides like the one you watched overhead. Night deepens. You hear a distant chorus from small feathered throats, part chirp, part croak, part soft whistle. Their voices vibrate in your ribs, low and comforting. Not quite bird song, not quite dinosaur call, something suspended gently between eras. You let the sound wash over you, steady and warm. For a moment, the forest around you becomes both ancient and familiar. You can almost hear modern birds layered atop the sound, sparrows at dawn, owls at dusk, gulls crying over waves. All of them echoes of these small gliders. You think of the feather that fell earlier, now resting somewhere among the ferns. Of how feathers will one day fill the skies in ways no dinosaur could imagine. Of how every bird outside your window tonight carries a lineage far older than your species. You breathe slowly, letting that truth settle. Flight is not a miracle of sudden invention. It is a memory stretching across millions of years, a possibility explored in countless forms, some lost, some carried forward. The forest quiets again. Stars gather above the canopy in faint clusters, glowing through thin gaps in the leaves. You step back into the clearing where you first stood, and the night air wraps around you like a calm, warm breath. The gliders have gone still. The shadows of their small bodies blend into the branches, tucked into feathered shapes that rise and fall with sleep. You let your thoughts slow with them. You let the air soften against your skin. You let the forest deepen into a slower rhythm. And somewhere above, near the highest branches, a feather catches a faint current of rising warmth and drifts once more before settling, quiet as an exhale, soft as the memory of wings. And perhaps, somewhere in that drifting, the dream of flight remembers you too. And as that last feather settles into the warm breath of ancient soil, the forest shifts again. Something heavier moves beneath the canopy. Not sudden, not sharp. Just a deep, gentle weight pressing itself into the ground with every slow step. The air around you changes, becomes denser, still carries the softness of night, but now threaded with a low vibration. Like distant drums rolling under moss. You feel it in your feet before you hear it. A quiet, rhythmic thud. Another and another, each one wrapped in calm certainty, as if whatever is approaching knows it has no reason to hurry. You turn toward the sound, and the shadows between the trunks deepen. The first thing you see is not the creature itself, but the outline of something rounded, the curve of a massive back, low to the earth, glinting faintly in moonlit beams that slip between branches. At first it seems like smooth stone, but then it shifts, and you realize the surface is textured with plates, rows of hardened scales, each one shaped like a buried shield. An ankylosaur, a living fortress, a warm-blooded tank moving slowly through prehistoric dusk. Its body is broad and low, balanced on sturdy limbs. Its head is wide and gentle-looking, eyes dark and steady. But most striking of all are the osteoderms, bony plates grown directly into its skin. They rise like islands across its back, each one catching starlight with a muted gleam. You notice the air around it feels slightly warmer, as though its great mass holds on to the heat of the day, releasing it slowly into the cooling forest. It pauses, sniffs the air, exhales a warm mist that dissolves into night. Then it continues, its pace as unhurried as a slow breath. The tail moves last, a heavy club of bones swinging behind like a pendulum, perfectly balanced, perfectly quiet. When it sways, it brushes aside ferns with a soft rustle. You can feel its power even without a strike. The energy stored in such a limb could shatter bone. Yet here it is only resting weight, moving gently with each step, a hammer sleeping in the dark. Scientists in your world will one day learn that ankylosaurs fuse several tail vertebrae to form this club, a dense mass strengthened by tendons and muscle. But tonight, in this forest, it is simply a quiet truth shaped by time. As the ankylosaur passes, it gives a small grunt, low and resonant, a sound that feels like gravel shifting deep underground. It is not communicating danger, only presence, a reminder that strength can move softly. A slight breeze drifts across your face, carrying the scent of wet fern and old resin. The ankylosaur's footsteps recede, replaced by another sound, a slower, almost rhythmic scrape, like something large shifting its weight behind a curtain of leaves. You step toward the noise. The light between branches dims, then brightens, then dims again, and then you see them. Tall triangular plates rising from a broad back, each one glowing faintly in the pale dusk. They sway gently as their owner moves, catching moonlight like warm-stained glass. The plates rise in pairs, alternating along a spine that curves through the clearing. A stegosaur. Its presence feels older somehow, more ancient even than the ankylosaur. Its gait is slow but dignified, each step deliberate, as if it listens to the ground before committing its weight. As it walks, its plates shimmer, a mosaic of orange, red, and soft brown. Some scientists believe these plates held networks of blood vessels. Perhaps they flushed with heat. Perhaps they glowed faintly in sunlight. Perhaps they communicated something only other stegosaurs understood. Tonight, in the hush of the Cretaceous dusk, the plates move like quiet lanterns, soft pulsing shapes that rise and fall with the creature's breath. You feel the warmth of its passing, a gentle radiance, like standing near the embers of a fire that has burned all day. The stegosaur lowers its head to browse, its jaws clipping ferns with rhythmic muffled bites. Its tail, armed with sharp spikes, hangs heavy behind it. When it shifts its stance, the spikes catch a beam of moonlight, glinting for a moment like polished stone. Yet nothing about the creature feels threatening. Its movements are patient, measured, grounded. It exists the way a hill exists, solid, ancient, and utterly unhurried. You take a breath with it. A long, slow inhale. A warm, steady exhale. The forest seems to open wider now, making room for another shape, larger, more elaborate. You hear it before you see it. The brushing of foliage against something broad and decorated, the soft hum of breath passing through a deep, rounded snout. Then the trees part and the creature steps into view. A ceratopsian. Not the famous triceratops. This is something stranger. Its frill is tall and patterned, edged with long, slender spikes that curve like rays of a setting sun. Its horns sweep forward, not sharply, but with a smooth arc that catches the moon like polished ivory. Its frill glows in muted shades of blue and amber, not painted, alive, skin stretched over bone, with patterns that might have signalled age, strength, or belonging. The animal turns its head slightly, and the frill casts shifting shapes onto the ferns, shadows of spikes and curves that ripple like underwater light. You realize that this frill is more than armor. It is language, art, a quiet announcement of identity. Scientists in your world will study these structures and debate whether they serve for display, recognition, or thermoregulation. But here, watching it stand in the near dark, you sense something simpler. This dinosaur carries a cathedral of bone on its shoulders, and it wears it with gentle pride. The wind moves softly through the clearing, bringing cool relief. The ceratopsian snorts, exhaling mist that disperses in pale curls. Its massive feet sink into damp soil with each shift of weight. The air trembles faintly with its breaths. Nearby, the stegosaur continues grazing. The ankylosaur rests beneath a low conifer. The ceratopsian stands tall, watching the forest as if guarding the moonlit glade. You stand among them, armoured giants of the Mesozoic, feeling no danger, only a deep, grounding calm. These animals are not predators. They are caretakers of their own bodies, protectors of their own quiet lives. Their strangeness is a kind of beauty carved by time. You step closer to the ceratopsian. It lowers its head slightly, acknowledging your presence with the soft rumble that vibrates through your chest. The sound feels like distant thunder rolling over hills, a reassurance rather than a warning. You notice details now, the rough texture of its horns, the small flecks of dried mud on its frill, the way its eyes soften as it exhales. This creature is enormous, strong, armoured, yet its presence eases something inside you, as though standing beside something so solid allows you to relax your own guard. You breathe in the warm scent of earth and foliage. You feel the weight of the day lift, one layer at a time. You sense the ancient world settling around you like a thick blanket. Somewhere above, the night deepens further. Stars appear between the treetops. The moon rises another inch. The forest responds with a chorus of quiet. Small insects sing in thin, silvery tones. Leaves rustle softly as warm drafts shift through the canopy. And the dinosaurs, these living fortresses, begin to settle. The stegosaur folds its legs and sinks slowly to rest, plates catching the moonlight for a last moment before the creature closes its eyes. The ankylosaur curls slightly, tail club resting beside it like a stone weight. Its breathing slows into deep, rhythmic waves. The ceratopsian lowers itself with considerable care, easing its frill onto the ground like a crown laid gently to sleep. Their bodies radiate heat into the cool air. Their chests rise and fall with ancient calm. You feel yourself slowing with them, matching their breath, matching their weight, letting your thoughts rest as deeply as their great bodies settle into the forest floor. No hurry, no fear, only the presence of armour at peace. You take in one last view of them. 3 strange, extraordinary beings resting under a sky filled with stars they never truly saw. Their plates, clubs, and frills shining faintly like relics of forgotten stories. The night wraps around them, around you, around the entire ancient world. Everything feels still, steady, protected. And in that steady quiet, another thought drifts gently across your mind. Even the strongest creatures needed rest. Even living armour slept. And perhaps, somewhere in their settling, the night learned how to hold us too. And from that deep, resting quiet, the air above the sleeping giants begins to move again. Not with urgency, just a slow drifting, like night stretching its limbs. A thin breeze slides through the upper branches. It glides across the plates of the stegosaur, across the cooled armour of the ankylosaur, across the tall frill of the ceratopsian, and then it keeps going, higher, wider, towards silhouettes that do not lie on the forest floor at all. Your eyes follow the movement, rising past the low canopy, past the moonlit leaves trembling in the wind, and there, farther out, Where the forest thins into open riverbank, something taller catches the faint silver light. Not an animal's body at first, just a line, a curve, a shape that stretches upward like a sail on a quiet sea. You step toward the openness, letting the deep ferns brush softly against your legs. The night feels warmer here, touched by wide horizons. A gentle humidity clings to your skin, carrying the scent of still water and warm mud. As you reach the clearing, the shape resolves. A ridge of tall spines rises from the back of a massive creature, standing half in shadow, half in moonlight. Spinosaurus. Its silhouette is longer, more fluid than the others. Part crocodile, part heron, part something entirely its own. Its sail towers above its spine, catching the cool night breeze like a great ancient banner. The wind hums softly over its ridges, a low, breathy tone, as if the night itself is playing this creature like an instrument. You feel the vibration in the air, a soft resonance, a long, slow note. The Spinosaurus shifts its weight, water lapping gently around its feet. It breathes, and the sail moves ever so slightly, casting a long ripple of shadow across the river's surface. The motion feels ceremonial, almost meditative. A creature rooted in water and wind, shaped by forces older than forests and older than stars. The creature lowers its long snout toward the river, touching the surface with barely a sound. Ripples expand outward in concentric rings, each one catching moonlight and bending it into silver arcs. When it moves again, it does not rush. It glides, steps slow, deliberate, as though carrying the weight of the sail teaches it a certain grace. Some scientist will one day wonder what this great structure was for: to release heat, to attract mates, to display strength, to house blood vessels that warmed its body in sunlight. Tonight, you feel no need for answers. The sail simply is, a part of the creature's calm identity. A vertical whisper rising through the night. Farther along the bank, two more silhouettes appear. Smaller, but no less strange. A pair of Dinosaurs, their tall backs lined with elongated spines that support broad, skin-covered sails. These sails are softer in outline than the Spinosaurus, but no less striking. One steps into a shaft of moonlight, and the membrane glows like a warm canvas. Orange, gold, hints of green shifting at the edges. The air moves through the reeds, and the sails respond with a gentle ripple, like sheets catching the wind on a quiet summer night. You walk closer. The Dinosaurs blink slowly at you, their eyes soft and dark, reflecting starlight with a glassy calm. They chew low vegetation in slow rolling motions, unbothered by your presence. Their sails sway in a rhythm that almost matches your breath, a rise, a fall, a sway, a stillness. You feel your heartbeat soften, sinking with their peaceful motion, and then a different shape crosses the ridge of the far hillside. Not a sail, a spine, many spines, rising like twin rows of narrow towers from the neck and back of another creature trailing through the brush. A Margosaurus. Its neck is adorned with paired spines that reach upward like the frame of an ancient instrument, each spine catching moonlight in a faint, sharp gleam. When the creature exhales, the sound is warm and low, vibrating between the spines like a soft chord. You watch, imagining how air might have moved among those tall projections. Some scientists believe it may have supported skin sails. Others say the spines stood bare like decorative quills. Perhaps they rattled softly. Perhaps they allowed the dinosaur to look larger against a bright horizon. Tonight they look like tuning forks planted in ancient skin. ready to resonate with the wind, ready to hum with the shape of the world. The Amargasaurus moves slowly, its long tail brushing the ground like a painter's brush, leaving soft trails in dust. As it walks, the spines catch the light again, thin silhouettes that rise like notes on a musical staff. A sudden, deep vibration rolls across the open floodplain. Not thunder, not wind. A sound made by breath travelling through bone. You turn toward the source, feeling the sound before you locate its shape. Another figure emerges from the warm night, tall, graceful, crowned with a long curved crest that sweeps backward from its skull like a pale, delicate horn. A Parasaurolophus. Its crest glows in the moonlight, smooth and elegant like a polished shell. Inside, a long tube winds through its skull, a natural resonating chamber. It lifts its head. Breath gathers deep within its chest, and then it releases a call. A long, low, musical note flows into the night. Not sharp, not alarming. A deep hum like a foghorn softened into warmth. The sound vibrates through your ribcage, through the soil, through the humid air. Another Parasaurolophus answers from across the water. The call travels slowly, bending over the river surface, merging with the first like two waves joining into one. You close your eyes for a moment. The calls roll through you in steady ripples, each one softer than the last, each one spreading until the entire night seems a hum with gentle sound. You open your eyes again, and the first Parasaurolophus is watching you. Its gaze is calm, almost curious. It lowers its head slightly, the crest gleaming as it moves. You feel as if it is speaking, not in words but in resonance. A reminder that sound can be identity. A reminder that even in ancient worlds, communication travelled through air like music. The dinosaur steps closer to its herd. They move together in slow arcs, their bodies swaying like reeds in a breeze. The crests glow faintly in the moonlight, like lanterns carried through a dream. You watch as they graze near the water, occasionally lifting their heads to let out another rolling note. Softer now, gentler, more like a lullaby shared across the plain. Beyond them, you notice even stranger shapes, silhouettes crowned with bony ridges, skulls ornamented with knobs and domes, crests rising like half-formed thoughts. A Lambeosaurus moves through the brush, its hatchet-shaped crest cutting a distinct outline against the sky. Another Hadrosaur lifts a short, rounded crest like a helmet. They make soft chirping sounds, lower in pitch than the Parasaurolophus's call, but warm and rhythmic like small instruments tuning themselves. Their bodies move with calm precision. Their tails sway gently behind them. Their skin glistens in moonlight, textured with subtle patterns, markings that might signal age or health or belonging. These creatures carry their strangeness without self-consciousness. Every sail, every crest, every spine, every ornament shaped by pressure and time, yet worn with quiet ease. The night glow reveals their beauty and soft strokes, and you realize nothing about them is odd, only unfamiliar, and unfamiliar things, when viewed slowly enough, become wondrous. You step deeper into the plain, the ground soft under your feet. The wind shifts, brushing the side of your face with warm air from the river. Above, clouds drift across the moon, dimming the light and making the silhouettes of the dinosaurs even more dreamlike. The Parasaurolophus calls again. The sound rolls through the air like a long exhale. You take a breath with it, slow, steady, open. And then another sound begins. Not a call, not a footstep. Wind passing through the spines of the Amargasaurus. a whispering tone, high and delicate, barely audible but unmistakable. It feels like listening to the world breathe. The Spinosaurus shifts again, its sail swaying gently. The Oranosaurus turn their bodies to the breeze, letting their sails catch the moving air. The Hadrosaurs lift their crests, sensing changes in wind direction. Every strange structure, every sail, every spine, every crest responds to the night air differently. Each one shapes and reshapes the breeze. Together, they create a layered symphony of softness. You close your eyes again, listen, feel, low hums, soft whistles, deep, mellow notes, quiet ripples of movement. The night becomes a single, continuous sound, the breath of creatures shaped by time into living instruments. You open your eyes and look across the floodplain. The dinosaurs move slowly through the moonlit grass, each one carrying its own strange crown, its own unique silhouette against the sky. You realize how important these shapes were, not as weapons, not as ornaments, but as forms of presence, ways of being seen, ways of being heard, ways of saying I am here in a world of giants and shadows. You feel a softness rise in your chest, a connection to these ancient beings that transcends time, because humans too grow strange shapes, habits, gestures, emotional sails we raise and lower without thinking, ways of being noticed, ways of belonging. The dinosaurs understood this in their own way. Perhaps that is why their shapes still echo through our imaginations. Perhaps that is why they still move in our dreams. The floodplain grows quiet again. The breeze softens. The moonlight fades behind drifting clouds. The Parasaurolophus lowers its head and lets out one final note, a long, slow tone that lingers in the air even after the sound has ended. You stand in the warm darkness, letting that phantom vibration settle into your bones, and as the tone dissolves, a final thought drifts through the quiet. Shapes are only strange when they are new. With time, they become part of the sky. And perhaps, somewhere in the gentle dark, the night carries those shapes as softly as it carries our dreams. And as the final note of the Parasaurolophus settles into the warm night air, the great shapes of the floodplain grow still again, their sails quiet, their crests dim, their tall silhouettes slowly blending back into the soft movement of grass and shadow. Yet the night is not empty, far from it. When the giants drift into silence, something smaller begins to stir, a rustle so faint you might mistake it for the wind brushing through dry leaves. But then you hear it again, closer this time, a soft crunch, a tiny shift of weight, a whisper of claws touching stone. Your awareness lowers, moving from the towering figures above to the forest floor at your feet. The air feels different here, denser, cooler, carrying the faint scent of damp soil and the sweetness of crushed ferns. The night that belonged to sails and crests now opens to creatures built for shadows. Something watches you, not with malice, not with fear, but with alert curiosity, as if you are one more shape in the dark that must be understood before the night can continue. You pause, letting your body grow still. The forest grows still with you, and then a pair of eyes appears between the ferns, large, round, reflecting moonlight with a soft, glassy glow, eyes too bright, too aware, too intent to belong to anything lumbering or slow. A small troodontid steps into view. Its movements are delicate, almost calculated, not the relaxed drift-in of a hadrosaur, nor the heavy swaying of a spined giant. This creature moves like thought itself, quick, precise, always listening. Its feathers catch the light in a faint shimmer. Not the broad feathers of gliding dinosaurs, but finer structures, more like fur mixed with quills, insulating the small body against nighttime chill. The troodontid tilts its head, then it tilts again, studying you from a new angle, as though testing different possibilities in its mind. It blinks once, very slowly. You realize you're looking at one of the most intelligent dinosaurs ever to walk the earth. A creature whose brain, relative to its body size, rivals that of early birds and mammals. It takes one careful step, placing a foot so lightly on the leaf litter that it makes almost no sound at all. You follow its gaze. It isn't staring at you anymore. It's staring into the darkness behind you, listening, waiting, sensing a world you cannot yet see. The night forest deepens around you. Cycad fronds rustle softly overhead. Moisture gathers on your skin as a cool breeze slides through narrow trunks. You sense movement in the branches above, a quick pulse of shadow, a faint scrape of claws. A second small dinosaur appears, this one even slighter than the troodontid. Its body is wrapped in downy feathers, and it clings to a branch like a strange ancient bird. It chirps softly, a high, questioning sound, and the troodontid answers with a lower, throatier click. The two exchange these sounds for several moments, as if discussing the state of the night. Then, with a flick of its long tail, the branch dweller glides downward. Not far, just a short, graceful leap that brings it closer to the forest floor. Its feathers catch a stray moonbeam, glowing pale gold before it lands. It watches you as well, but with less intensity than the troodontid. Its gaze is more gentle, more hesitant. You can almost feel its heartbeat. Fast, rhythmic, a creature built for quick escapes and quicker decisions. As your eyes adjust to the lower light, more shapes come into focus. Tiny prints in the mud, long delicate toe marks, a scatter of broken seed shells near an exposed root. A trail of disturbed ferns leading toward a small burrow-like depression in the earth. This is not the domain of giants. This is the world beneath them, the world of the quick, the curious, the alert. A world that requires constant awareness, where even sleep must be negotiated carefully. You imagine these small dinosaurs living their nights in cycles of vigilance, listening for larger predators, searching for insects and small prey, gathering warmth by tucking close to one another beneath low branches. They are the opposite of the great armoured behemoths. Where those creatures carry bone for protection, these creatures carry attention, awareness as armour, observation as shield. You breathe with them for a moment, letting your senses sharpen quietly, feeling the forest through their small, swift minds. Something shifts in the undergrowth, a soft scratching sound, a rhythmic scraping of earth. You follow the noise to a low mound just beyond a curtain of ferns. At first you see nothing. Then you see movement, a gentle lifting of soil, a feathered arm clearing debris. A small bird-like dinosaur is tending a nest. It circles slowly, arranging eggs with deliberate care. Each movement is balanced, thoughtful. Its long tail acts as a counterweight, swaying in perfect harmony with its steps. You recognize the posture, crouched low over the nest. Wings spread slightly to shield the clutch. Oviraptor. For years, people believed this dinosaur stole eggs. But fossils revealed something far more tender. Oviraptors were parents, devoted ones, often found fossilized in this exact position, guarding their nests even in death. The oviraptor in front of you breathes softly, chest rising and falling with steady rhythm as it warms its eggs with its body. You feel the warmth, the steadiness, the patience of this small creature caring for its future in the dark of the forest. A tenderness older than humanity, a familiarity that reaches across millions of years. The oviraptor closes its eyes for a moment. Just a moment. As if granting itself a few heartbeats of rest. You feel your own eyelids grow heavy. Behind you, the troodontid lets out a soft chirp of warning. Its head turns sharply to one side, eyes wide, listening. You follow its gaze and see a quick shadow dart across the ground. Another small dinosaur, this one built for speed, its tail stiff and straight like a balancing rod. It pauses, sniffing the air. Its nostrils flare. Its eyes flash toward you, then toward the troodontid, then toward the oviraptor nest. But the intruder decides tonight is not a night for risk. It melts back into the undergrowth, vanishing almost as quickly as it appeared. The troodontid relaxes slightly. Its feathers settle. Its breathing slows. Then, satisfied, it turns back toward the deeper forest, its attention shifting to new mysteries. You remain where you are, surrounded by rustles, soft chirps, tiny steps, faint breaths, a symphony of small lives. The giants of the floodplain felt grand and awe-inspiring, but the small ones bring a different energy. They bring intimacy, the nearness of breath, the closeness of beating hearts, the softness of fur and feather brushing leaves. Their world is measured in inches, not miles, in moments, not eras. You feel the forest differently now. Not as a backdrop for colossal creatures, but as a living, breathing tapestry of delicate interactions. A place where life survives not through size, but through awareness. A patch of moonlight breaks through the canopy, illuminating a stretch of forest floor near your feet. There, nestled against a fallen log, a small feathered dinosaur is curled like a sleeping bird. Its body rises and falls with gentle breaths. Its head is tucked beneath its wing. One foot twitches softly in a dream. You kneel beside it. The warmth radiating from its feathers mixes with the cool air drifting between the trees. The creature is completely at peace, trusting the night, trusting the forest, trusting its place in a world full of giants. And in that simple trust, you feel your own shoulders relax, your own breath deepen, your own body soften. You realize that even millions of years ago, amidst towering predators and vast ecosystems, sleep still found its place. Every creature needed rest, even the tiny ones, especially the tiny ones. A gentle rustle above draws your gaze upward again. Perched lightly on a branch is another small dinosaur, its feathers fluffed against the cooling night, its eyes half-lidded. It watches you with the calm curiosity of something that lives close to the border between sleep and wakefulness. You watch back, and for a moment the entire forest seems to breathe with the two of you. Slow, quiet, easy breaths. The air feels warmer, the sounds feel softer, the night feels safe. The world of giants has faded into the distance. Now the world of the small wraps around you like a blanket of living shadows and soft feathers. The troodontid returns for a final glance. Its eyes reflect the moon in bright silver. Then it slips deeper into the trees, its tail disappearing behind a curtain of ferns, its soft steps merging with the heartbeat of the forest. You sense it will watch the night for all those who sleep. Oviraptors on their nests, gliders on their branches, tiny dinosaurs curled beneath leaves, and perhaps in some quiet way, It watches over you as well. The forest darkens, the sounds grow even softer. Your body relaxes deeper into the ancient night, and as your breath settles into the slow rhythm of the small dinosaurs around you, a final thought drifts through the warm air. Not all strength is loud. Some strength is quiet, alert, small, and full of life. And perhaps somewhere in the shadowed leaves the night keeps their tiny dreams as gently as it keeps yours. And as the tiny dreams of the forest settle into stillness, a subtle shift moves through the air. It is not loud, not sudden, just a feeling. A faint change in the temperature, a quiet pause between breaths, as though the night itself is listening for something distant. The small dinosaurs around you sense it before you do. The troodontid lifts its head from the shadows. The oviraptor on its nest pauses mid-breath, eyes narrowing ever so slightly. Even the feathered sleeper beneath the branch twitches as though a dream has brushed too close to waking. You feel it then, a pressure, soft at first, a hum beneath the soil, a tremble in the leaves. The night is still warm, but the warmth feels different now. Less like the comfort of summer, more like the breath of something approaching. You lift your gaze, far across the ancient forest, beyond the ferns, beyond the cycads, beyond the slow river winding across the plain. The horizon glows, a faint golden line at first, like sunrise arriving in the wrong direction. It brightens, very slowly, very quietly. A band of light that thickens into a burnished arc, glimmering above the dark edge of the world. You blink. The small dinosaurs blink with you. The light expands, brightening the undersides of scattered clouds, giving each one a strange, molten lining. The air grows hotter against your skin, and then, in the far distance, a new star appears, a point of brilliance hanging just above the horizon. Too large, too low, too bright to be anything born of the sky. It moves. Your breath catches, not in fear, but in astonishment. The small dinosaurs freeze, bodies held still in instinctive reverence, as though witnessing a force older than their own forests. The bright star streaks downward, leaving a trail of golden fire across the heavens, its glow reflected in every still pool, every glossy leaf, every lifted eye. It is both beautiful and unimaginable, a brushstroke of pure light, drawn across the night with slow, deliberate grace. You do not hear the impact, not yet. Sound travels slower than sight. For a long moment the world is only brightness, a silent wave of radiance rolling across the earth. The troodontid presses low to the ground, feathers trembling. The oviraptor spreads its arms protectively over its nest. Even the great dinosaurs on the plain, far from your sheltered vantage, lift their heads and stare toward the distant bloom of light. A second sun glows on the horizon. The forest warms. Leaves curl slightly at their edges. The air thickens, pulsing with invisible energy. Then, a deep vibration shivers through the ground, passing beneath your feet like a slow, ancient heartbeat. Not a sound exactly. Not yet. More like the world inhaling sharply. When the sound finally arrives, it is not violent. Not in this moment, from this distance. It reaches you as a long, rolling sigh. A deep note that seems to come from everywhere at once, as though the sky itself is exhaling. The trees sway. A handful of leaves fall quietly around you. The small dinosaurs grip the earth with delicate claws, steadying themselves. The night dims again, the brilliance on the horizon fading to a flickering glow like a lantern fighting its own brightness. darkness slowly returns. But something in the air has changed. Something subtle, something ancient. You feel a faint dryness settling over the forest, carried on winds that should not yet have formed. The troodontid sniffs the air, eyes narrowing. Its posture is alert but not panicked. Animals that survived for millions of years knew how to feel the world's smallest shifts. Clouds drift in from the west, thick, pale, almost luminous in the dimming sky. At first they look like ordinary weather, but then you notice how quickly they gather, how heavy the air becomes, how the moon fades behind a spreading veil. Dust. Particles lifted into the atmosphere by the distant impact. Carried across continents by rising winds. The world grows muted. Colours soften. The air cools strangely fast. A hush falls over the forest, not of silence, but of expectation. Small dinosaurs gather close to trunks and low branches. They press into burrows, tuck beneath foliage, move with a quiet intention of creatures seeking shelter from a storm not yet arrived. You follow them, letting instinct guide your steps. The air tastes faintly of minerals, like stone turned to powder, like earth exhaled into sky. Over the next moments, or hours, time loses its sharp edges. The forest dims into a twilight that lingers unnaturally long. Sunrise hesitates below the horizon, its light softened by a haze that grows thicker each breath you take. The troodontid emerges briefly, eyes adjusting to the strange half-light. It picks through ferns, listens to the new quiet of the world, then withdraws again. The oviraptor remains steadfast at its nest, wings curved protectively over its eggs, breath slow, resolute. Shadows deepen beneath the cycads. Moisture clings to leaves without evaporating. The air cools further, like evening descending again and again without dawn ever truly breaking. You sit beneath a low branch and watch as dust falls softly, almost invisibly, settling like pale mist on the forest floor. It does not choke. It does not sting. It simply settles, turning the edges of leaves grey, coating fallen logs like a thin snowfall. The forest becomes a painting done in muted tones. The world is changing, but gently in this moment. Softly, like a slow breath, turning inward. Days, or perhaps only hours, seem to pass in this half-light. Small dinosaurs forage closer to the ground, searching for seeds tucked beneath roots. Their movements remain quick, purposeful, but tinged with caution. You watch their resilience, their adaptability, their quiet intelligence. Life continues, even as the sky dims. You feel an ache beneath the beauty, a soft sadness made of gratitude, not fear. But then something new happens. Rain, soft at first, a gentle tapping on leaves, small droplets falling through the dusty air, catching what little light seeps through the haze. These small dinosaurs perk up, lifting their heads. The oviraptor shifts its wings, letting the cool drops slide over its feathers. You stretch out a hand. A drop lands on your skin, cool, clean, something like renewal. The forest drinks deeply, the dust settles, the world exhales, but the light does not return. Not fully, not yet. And as the rain quiets, you begin to notice something profound. The forest feels older, heavier, as if every sound is coming through a layer of memory. Small footsteps seem softened, muffled by the dust-soaked soil. Leaves sag slightly under the weight of their pale coating. The air, though breathable, feels thick with stories. You kneel and press your fingers to the earth. It is damp, cool, full of potential. This is where fossils begin, This exact moment, when sediment settles over what once lived, when earth begins to preserve instead of erode, when memories shift from living breath to mineral whisper. You imagine the oviraptor's nest gently covered in layers of fine dust, eggs buried slowly, not abruptly, wings curved over them still. You imagine footprints, tiny three-toed impressions, filled inch by inch with settling ash, turning hollow spaces into moulds, moulds into stone. The world becomes a quiet archive, a library of moments held by mud. Time blurs further, days drift into each other, light grows weaker, plants struggle, small dinosaurs forage with increasing urgency. Some disappear into burrows and do not return. You watch all this not with dread, but with the solemn awe of someone standing in the doorway between life and memory. This is not destruction, not in the way stories sometimes tell it. This is transformation. The earth making space for what comes next. The world turning a page, life reshaping its story, and yet you feel the ache of it, the tenderness of endings, the softness with which existence sometimes folds itself into the ground. You breathe deeply, letting the cool air fill your lungs. Even now, even here there is beauty. A soft sound catches your attention. A plink, a drip, a faint tapping from above. More rain, but this time the droplets land on something hollow. Stone? Bone? You walk toward the sound, moving between dim ferns and low branches. There, resting half buried in newly settled dust, you see the curve of a fossil to be. Not yet stone, not yet hardened by time, but already beginning its journey. A rib, long, elegant, its surface grey with ash. Another drip lands on it, echoing softly inside the curved chamber. You reach out, press your palm to the damp surface. The bone is cool, still strong, still holding its shape. For a moment, the forest around you fades, and you see what will come. Layer upon layer of sediment, pressure building, minerals replacing organic tissue. Slow transformation turning this living rib into stone memory, into a fossil that will be found millions of years later by hands as curious as yours, by eyes searching for the shapes of creatures long gone but never truly lost. And in that vision there is peace, not loss, not grief, just continuity, a story moving from breath to earth to time. You return to the shelter of the low branches and the small dinosaurs gather near you, not seeking your warmth, but sharing theirs. The troodontid settles onto a patch of moss, its feathers puffing gently as dust settles into soft outlines. The oviraptor bows its head over its nest, wings forming a shelter against whatever comes next. The glider in the branches above tucks its head beneath delicate plumage, blending into the dim mosaic of leaves. Their breathing forms a rhythm, slow, soft, an ancient lullaby, and as you listen, you understand. These creatures will not all survive this changing world, but their shapes, their stories, their warmth, their breaths will echo through time in birds, in stone, in memory, in the quiet hum of the earth turning beneath your resting body. You close your eyes, letting the dim prehistoric twilight settle around you, and in that settling one final thought drifts through your mind. Gentle as falling dust, even endings become part of Earth's long, patient dream. The quiet rainfall that settled over the ancient world softens, and in its fading rhythm the air around you grows lighter, as though time itself were loosening its grip. The sound becomes gentler, more familiar, almost like the soft tapping on a modern window pane. The slow breath of deep time begins to lift, and with it, the world around you reshapes. What was once ash cooling on enormous ferns becomes the pale glow of a polished stone floor, stretching beneath dim lights that echo softly through a quiet museum hall. You feel the transition not as a shift of scenery, but as a thought turning over in your mind. The same rain becoming something new, the same memory uncovering another layer, the same earth humming in a slightly different way. Your senses follow that change with calm curiosity. The air is cooler here, settling on the skin like the faint breath of ancient caves. The soundscape becomes soft and steady, a mix of muted footsteps far away, the gentle hum of ventilation moving steadily through the room, and the subtle whisper of your own clothes as you shift beneath the blanket. This hall is not entirely real, not entirely imagined, more like a place your mind builds from memory, photographs, and quiet fascination. A place where the bones of creatures long vanished rise into the shape of stories. Before you, the outline of a skeleton begins to grow through the dimness. Not a fierce predator this time, not a towering giant, but something stranger, something that bends the imagination in warm, looping arcs. Perhaps it is Therizinosaurus, its long, scythe-shaped claws held forward like curious questions. Or maybe it is Carnotaurus, small-armed and horned, muscles once arranged in ways that still puzzle the mind. These forms do not loom. They simply exist, peaceful in their stillness, as if sleep has settled into every mineral that once was bone. You can almost feel the cool surface of fossilized ridges beneath your fingertips, even though you're only imagining the touch. The stone is smooth in some places and grainy in others, like weathered wood or dried clay, textures shaped by millions of years of pressure and silence. Every part of these skeletons feels patient, unhurried, as though they have waited far too long to rush any part of their story. And while you look at them, something inside you softens. The awareness that these creatures, as strange as they were, are part of the same long lineage of life that eventually shaped you. Just as buried bones hold memory in stone, your own body carries quiet echoes of deep time. Calcium in your bones once drifted in ancient seas. Carbon in your breath once flowed through forests that fed the dinosaurs. Oxygen in your lungs was forged in stars long before Earth cooled. Science weaves into this softly. Paleontologists use tiny brushes, chisels, and careful taps of small hammers to free fossils from stone. Their movements are steady, almost meditative. CT scans reveal hollow spaces in horns and crests, growth rings in bones, layers of mineral deposits marking seasons long gone. When scientists trace these patterns, they read not just anatomy but memory, ancient marks left by droughts, migrations, and the slow rhythms of growth and rest. You hear their quiet work as a soft scraping, as if they're lifting away the thin veil of time grain by grain. The room around you becomes even calmer, lit by gentle pools of warm light. Each reconstructed skeleton is a lantern of memory, glowing not with fire but with understanding. These creatures were once flesh, once warm, once breathing under skies that smelled of resin and flowering plants. Now they stand as monuments to patience, and yet they don't feel dead. Not entirely. Some pieces of them still walk the world. Birds outside your window carry traces of ancient claws inside their wings. Feathers evolved long before the first true flight, and their delicate branching patterns remain a living bridge to dinosaurs that once walked forests full of humming cicadas and glowing sunsets. When a raven tilts its head, or a sparrow fluffs its feathers against the cold. Those gestures echo behaviors older than humanity itself. You stand, or rather rest, between these two worlds, the deep past and the quiet present. Your breath moves gently, rising and falling like a small tide, and with each exhale the boundary between now and then softens. You sense a kind of companionship with these ancient shapes, not because you lived with them, but because the earth that held them now holds you too. You share its gravity, its cycles, its ceaseless transformation. You are part of its memory, just as they are part of its story. The thought deepens, settles. The weird shapes of dinosaurs, long claws, bright crests, towering sails, no longer seem bizarre. They feel like variations of life exploring its own possibilities, the same way human minds explore ideas, feelings and dreams. Life experiments, life wanders, life tries new forms just to see what might fit the world around it. You too have grown in strange ways over the course of life. Habits, hopes, instincts, and quiet armors that protect and express who you are. The museum around you dims slightly, as if the lights themselves want to soften the mood. A faint echo of earlier rain returns, but now it sounds like it is tapping on a skylight far above, almost musical in its rhythm. Somewhere in this imagined hall a scientist turns a small fossil in their hands, examining the fine lines where muscle once anchored to bone. You feel the gentleness of this act, a kind of reverence, a kind of listening. Understanding the past is one way of caring for the present. As you drift further into this calm place, the skeleton before you begins to fade at the edges, not vanishing, just softening like an image slowly dissolving into mist. You sense how time blurs everything eventually, but in a way that preserves the essence. The story remains even when the details fade. The memory remains even when the shape grows quiet. The world shifts once again, and the museum floor melts into something even softer. The familiar cradle of your bed, the gentle weight of blankets curled around your body. You don't fully leave the museum behind. Its calm halls merge with your room. Its quiet presence settles near your breath. Fossils linger like dreams beneath the skin of the earth, just as ancient thoughts linger beneath the thoughts of today. You feel yourself resting like a fossil too, not stiff or cold, but timeless, supported, held. Your breath becomes the slow settling of sediment over old bones. Your mind becomes the stillness of stone protecting memory. Everything grows so quiet that even your heartbeat sounds like a distant echo in a deep cavern. And as your breath deepens, you sense that the dinosaurs have not truly left. They have transformed. They have become birds in trees, stones in cliffs, stories in human hands, and quiet shapes floating in your imagination as you prepare for sleep. They have become part of the long looping song of life, and in some small way, part of you. The last thing you notice is a feather, imagined or remembered, drifting down through the dim air above you, spiraling gently until it reaches the ground, settling like a soft exhale on the quiet earth itself. And perhaps somewhere the ancient bones dream too. The quiet breath of deep time settles around you now, soft as drifting ash, warm as the memory of sunlight on ancient skin. The world that held forests of ferns and creatures shaped like questions is fading into a gentle dark, and in that drift, something even softer begins to rise. It moves like a pulse beneath the blanket covering you, like a whisper in the room, like a thought that doesn't quite need words. You feel it as a loosening in the chest, a warmth behind the ribs, a small, steady glow where your breath turns. The night eases forward, slow and low, carrying the last echoes of the dinosaurs you've walked beside. And in this space where stories stretch thin and silence thickens, the world grows tender in its quiet. The air around you feels a little cooler than before, or perhaps your body has simply begun to settle deeper, sinking gradually into its own soft weight. Each inhale drifts in like a tide. Each exhale moves out like the long shadow of a passing wing. Somewhere, far back in the world of forests and sails and thunderous steppes, the echoes have dimmed. But they haven't disappeared. They've softened into something more refined, more delicate, a thread of memory woven through the present moment. You feel that thread near your skin, like the faint vibration after a distant note has faded, still humming in the air though the instrument has gone still. Even now, in the stillness of your room, you can sense the warmth of the ancient earth beneath everything. The same earth that cradled strange forms in fern-dark forests cradles you. The air you breathe now once moved across the backs of animals with plates and feathers and towering crests. A molecule of oxygen brushing your cheek tonight may have rustled the feathers of a glider or cooled the armour of an ankylosaur resting in the dusk. Nothing lost, nothing forgotten, just changed, carried, softened by time. You feel the closeness of that truth in your hands, your spine, your slow heartbeat. The calcium that strengthens your bones was once dissolved in ancient seas where long-necked creatures waded. It may have passed through the shells of ammonites, through the limbs of small dinosaurs brooding their eggs, through the slow-growing plates of creatures that carried their fortresses on their backs. The minerals in you are older than forests, older than continents, older than the first sunrise over the first fern. Your body is a soft echo of a world that breathed long before you arrived. And the birds that sometimes call outside your window, whether far away or close enough to feel like a whisper, are still dinosaurs, shaped by the same branching lineage that once gave rise to creatures bold and strange. When you close your eyes and hear a faint chirp in memory, you're listening to something ancient disguised as something familiar. A living fossil perched in the modern night. A soft bridge between eras, built with wings. Their songs thread through the dark now, light and fleeting, like thoughts drifting by just before sleep. Your breath moves slower. It slips into a rhythm that feels like waves brushing a warm shore, each one smoothing the edges of your thoughts. You might imagine those waves rolling across a Cretaceous coastline, passing by the footprints of a crest-headed giant calling through the fog. Or perhaps they move across a quiet plain millions of years later, over stones created from bones, polished by wind and time. In every version of the world you picture, the rhythm stays the same. A rise, a fall, a soft return. The universe breathes through everything, including you. Your blanket lies around you like gentle sediment, layering softly, one thin sheet over another. You feel its weight the way buried bones might feel the slow embrace of earth. Not heavy, not cold, only steady, only still. This is how memories settle, thin layers drifted down until they form something solid and quiet. Fossils are the world's long sleep, and here you are, wrapped in your own. The night around you deepens, sound fades, edges blur, thoughts loosen. Everything becomes rounder, softer, warmer. You no longer walk through ancient forests. You float through them. Shapes no longer need names. Footsteps no longer need destinations. What matters is the hush after movement, the tender echo after a call. You feel as if you've become the forest floor, a place where strange footprints once pressed down with curiosity, with hunger, with gentle caution. Now you hold those prints like soft impressions in the mind. You drift a little deeper, and the dinosaurs drift with you, not as creatures now, but as gentle embodiments of time and change and wonder. They become symbols more than shapes. They become warmth more than bodies. They become quiet guardians of the memory your heart carries without effort. The weirdest dinosaurs, the strangest forms, the feathered gliders and armoured tanks and sail-backed wanderers, they've dissolved into a single warm glow that rests near your breath. And from that glow something steady rises, a sense of belonging, a sense that your place in the world is part of a lineage so long and beautiful it can only be understood in whispers. You're not separate from deep time, you are made of it. The atoms in you have lived through oceans, through storms, through forests lit by volcanic dust. They have been soil, they have been stone, they have been starlight. Tonight, they simply rest as you. Your breathing slows again. Each inhale is a thin ribbon of air that feels older than words. Each exhale is a soft sigh that brushes the room with calm. You're sinking now, but gently, like a feather spiraling downward in warm air. Slow, soft, weightless. The world dims a little more. Even your thoughts are quiet, as if they too have curled beneath wings to sleep. Picture the night room around you, the faint hum of air, the steady warmth beneath your body, the subtle darkness settling like fine dust. This is where deep time folds into the present. This is where ancient life meets the quiet of your bed. You lie there as though you are held by the same planet that once carried whole forests of creatures shaped like dreams. If you listen closely, with your mind softened and your body relaxed, you might feel a tiny vibration in the darkness, a distant echo, warm and low. It is not a roar, not a footstep, not a call. It is simply the world remembering. The night hums with all it has carried. It hums with creatures long turned to stone. It hums with feathers drifting into evolution. It hums with the breath of birds outside your window. And in that hum, you find your own. Your eyelids grow heavier. Your body melts deeper. Thoughts dissolve like dust in still water. You're drifting toward the quiet center of the night, where stories rest and dreams rise slowly. The dinosaurs fade into silhouettes now, soft shapes behind fog, gentle shadows moving at the edge of memory. They leave only their warmth behind, only their hum. And in this final quiet moment, the world feels very still. Your breath, slow and steady. The night, patient and soft. The ancient earth, turning beneath you in its long, silent rhythm. Everything connected, everything calm, everything older than time and younger than this breath. The night still hums with dinosaurs, and somewhere beneath that hum, you drift into sleep, warm and safe, as the universe breathes very quietly with you.